Today, speaking of New Jersey, the former New Jersey Nets had a bit of a day today at Media Day in Brooklyn. And we told you last week you knew this was coming. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a story that takes over everything probably for the better part of a month. Because with NBA teams starting training camp in a couple of days, now you're starting to find out all the stars who are not vaccinated. And the ones that are unvaccinated happen to be playing in cities where there's an ordinance that if you're going to play basketball there, you have to be vaccinated or you cannot play. This happening in New York City. It's happening in San Francisco. And the two faces of this right now are Kyrie Irving of the Nets, who right now couldn't play because he's not vaccinated and doesn't have plans to get vaccinated, and Andrew Wiggins of the Warriors, who, again, doesn't plan to get vaccinated, but because you play for these teams, you can't play games in this city. And there's no way around it because of the rules that have been put out there. Now, let's hear both of them talk today before we get into the big takeaways from this. First, let's listen to Andrew Wiggins. Right? Here is him talking about the vaccine, him not getting it, and the repercussions.
Andrew, you seem pretty convinced. What's the reason for not just explaining what you believe?
Because it's none of your business. That's what it comes down to. I ask you guys about your beliefs. I don't ask you guys what you think is right or wrong. We're different people. It can be like parenting. Some people shed their beliefs onto their children. Some people let their children to grow up and believe what they want to believe. Who are you guys where I have to explain what I believe? Or, what's right or what's wrong in my mind? We're two totally different people. What you think is not what I think. What I think is not what you think.
You know what that means? I don't have a good answer for you. I don't have a good answer that's going to make you think, yes, this is why I'm not getting the vaccine and you can agree with me. I don't have an answer. Because if he had an answer, he would say it. Because no player wants to have to go through these questions of why aren't you getting the vaccine? They would say, here's why. Because, and if you had a good reason, then reporters, everybody say, oh, okay, I get it. Oh, I'm writing it down. It's that's your reason. I get it. But I have not heard anybody yet give a reason why. They've not given a reason why.
Well, but that's the larger thing, though. It's, it's my beliefs.
Right, exactly.
Okay, please explain why you believe this. Because look, the follow-up to Wiggins in that Q&A right there, someone just said, well, it's our job to communicate to the fans and to the team, teams, fans across the country and certainly in the local newspapers about why someone's going to miss half a season. I think that's fairly important.
Yeah, no, it's my belief. Okay. If he had a good reason, he would say it. Right? And then because you had Bradley Beal today who said, I'm not getting the vaccine, neither are my kids. Why? Because there's a link between vaccines and autism. There is no link between vaccines and autism. But it's a very popular belief because you can find people on the internet that can tell you what you want to hear. Right? If you Google vaccines and autism, the first thing that comes up is the CDC. There is no link between vaccines and autism. So that should be what you need. But no, that's a popular thing. So here, again, I look for a good reason, right? Now, here's Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving was asked, hey, Kyrie, no vaccine. What's the deal with you? Are you going to get him? What's going on? And here's Kyrie Irving.
Obviously, living in this public sphere, there's just a lot of questions about what's going on in the world of Kyrie. And I just would love to just keep that private. I'm not able to be present there today, but that doesn't mean that I'm putting any limits on the future of me being able to join the team.
I'm missing games, but it's going to be private. Okay, now before you go crazy, because a lot of people who are anti-vax right now are going, oh my God, Jason, I want to kill you right now. Let me just tell you this, okay? If I were these players and I did not want to get vaccinated for whatever reason, if I was scared, if I'm just believing what my uncle told me that they're going to track you in your, in your blood, whatever it was, the one thing I would say, because this is what I believe in, is I would say I don't believe in this rule because I don't. It's not right that government, and this is local government in New York and San Francisco, can make a rule that you can't play if you don't get the vaccine. That's not right. This is government overreach, and that's what I would subscribe to, and that's what I would say if I were these players. This isn't right. And if you want to make the players go through all kinds of COVID protocols because they need to, yeah, okay, that I get. Look, and I understand the spirit and why they're doing this, and I get it because we want to get rid of COVID. Who doesn't? We all do. But to say you can't play When all of the sports leagues say, hey, you know what, you have to go through stringent protocols, and you can be upset about that, but I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of sympathy for you to say, oh, I can't go to restaurants, I can't go to use the hot tub, I gotta. No, because we're trying to get rid of COVID. If you don't want it, it doesn't mean you can't play. It just means you have to go through more protocols than people who are vaccinated. That's your choice, right? And these are the rules we're making as a private entity. The NFL, the NBA, we can make our own rules, right? I've seen rules of places and restaurants across the country that have what was the one story from last week where they had a no mask mandate? Like you couldn't wear a mask
right.
no matter what, right? These are individual places that can make their own rules for it. This is the government saying we can't do this. This is a rule right here. And you can't play if you don't get vaccinated. And that I don't believe in. You know, I don't believe for a second any of them have a good reason for not getting vaccinated other than conspiracy theory. What do I say? Show me somebody who doesn't want to get vaccinated. I'll show you someone who traffics in conspiracy theory, right? That's what I've said. I've said that for a long time. But if that's their reason, I would say, okay, I'm kind of with you on that. I understand. Now, when it comes down to it, are they really going to say, no, I'm going to miss these games. I'm not going to get vaccinated because I'm going to give up all of this. I'm going to give up games and everything else I do for a living because of it. That's going to be the big question. And that's where things will turn at some point. But right now, these guys are going to be the face of this. And Kyrie's going to be the face of it. And Kyrie is a guy, I don't know. I'm waiting for his reason. Maybe it has to do with dinosaurs, the world being flat. I don't know. It's Kyrie Irving. Who knows? But, is it real with him? Or is he finding an opportunity to stick it to the NBA? Like he tried to with the bubble, when he tried to get everybody to not play in the bubble a year and a half ago during the playoffs. I mean, I don't know, because that's, this is part of Kyrie. Okay, his family has already said how unfair this is and the rule is bad. But that's what I would stick with if I'm saying, okay, I want people to understand this is where I'm coming from. You may not like my reasoning because it doesn't make a lot of sense, but if I tell you it's unfair, I would agree with you and say yes, because I don't believe that the local governments should be making rules like this, that you can't ply your trade, you can't make a living unless you don't get the vaccine, because that is being forced to take the vaccine. What's happening up until now, no one's being forced to get it. It's just, you don't have to get it, but you got to go through all these protocols if you want to do your normal things. Well, I don't want to do that. No, I'm sorry, but that's not getting forced. You're choosing not to take it. We're telling you, okay, this is how you live if you don't want to get it. That's not being forced. No one's being forced to. This is forcing someone to get it. And because the government's doing it, it's not a private entity. It's not that I have an issue with. That's going to be difficult.
Well, there's a lot of municipalities where if you're an agent, i.e. you work for the local municipality, they're looking at different ways to enforce a vaccination requirement, and you start getting into discussions of that. When it comes to the NBA and larger performances, and particularly, let's just keep it to the NBA and the Warriors and Nets and Knicks for this conversation, is I would say, all right, I understand, here's the local mandates, but here's what I ask in terms of the NBA and how this is being adjudicated for non-vaccinated folks that are traveling to those cities. If they could show a proof of a negative test and get to play, coming in off a plane, off of, out of the hotel, off the team bus, whatever, charters and everything, we stipulate to that, but still, you've traveled through, that they can come in and get a negative test and play, but I'm here and I can go through whatever protocols you need and I can't play. That incongruity is something I think I'd raise my hand on when it gets down to it. Now, in terms of overall governmental, regulatory type stipulations for these things, I don't know where the laws are, right, in terms of the history of it all and what can be shuffled, changed, and voted upon in rapid fire to try to combat something like you've had here with COVID-19. And each city and municipality is trying to figure it out, but you certainly see how different life is in different parts of the country, just at larger events and how things are paced. And certainly here in California, large events are going on. And then it becomes are they really strictly enforcing what has been written on the books, right? Like if you go to a football game, are you going to have a bunch of folks sitting with masks on? I'm going to guess most folks are going to claim that they're eating or drinking most of the time.
Yeah.
When all they're doing is cursing at the good or bad quarterback play from their team. I mean, think about it in Chicago. I mean, the game was in Cleveland, so you had plenty of Bears fans that made it there. I gotta think many folks took off their masks to boo and curse Matt Nagy, even though there was a mandate to keep it on, right? Those kind of things. So part of it is what's on the books, and then it's, well, are you actually going to spend the money and manpower to enforce it? And that's a whole other part that needs to be addressed in all this.
Twitter at How About a Fresca. Mike at Swollen Dome, the Jason Smith Show with my best friend Mike Harmon. I mean, if I was them, that's what I would go with. It would buy you time a bit to have the discussion. It still would come down to, are you going to get the vaccine? Are you going to help your team? But at least for a little bit, that gets that discussion part of it going.